Like, a lot of the characters are different, and like the general story is different. How did you go about figuring out what to keep and how to adapt it?
Yeah, I think one of the issues was that the book took place in Africa on this, it took place in Africa. And so we were asking ourselves up front, like, how do we, for, an American audience jumping into this show, how do we create, more kind of relatable, we wanted to see the animals exist, kind of starting to act abnormally in a much more familiar environment, which is why we created the Los Angeles side of things. We really wanted to create this Mitch character, this veterinary pathologist who is, really understood animal behavior, the science behind it, as it was turning, south, being able to follow that sort of forensic thread with it. Those were two of the major changes.
And the book had a spectacular hook. The animals are fighting back, as it were. And yet, we didn't want the experience of watching the show to be spoiled if you had read the book. And so, the first time we talked to James Patterson, he was like, I get it. The book is there. It's not going anywhere. Tell a different story. Take some of those characters. And so a lot of it has been trying to honor the themes and the sort of the tone of his book, and yet to tell a different version.
So did one of you guys have a thing against cats?
He's a cat lover and I'm not.
It seems like the first episode, at least, there's a lot of cats going crazy.
Well, there's a fair amount of people that get creeped out by cats, and we thought let's play into that. But as you see, by the end of the second episode, dogs get brought into the mix as well. And the whole animal kingdom is going to have their day in court on this show.
All right, and then what's the cats in the tree? Was that any homage to the birds?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. It was something that movie was an inspiration.
Which, by the way, was the creepiest scene when we first see the cats in the tree.
It's funny, there seems to be a lot of people, like, we were creeped out by it, and then there's people that thought it was, like, laughably silly, which I guess is another way of reacting to the same thing. Like, things that scare you, you have to laugh, but then sort of like the comedy. Good. Me too.
So do you guys have like an overall arc? Will we find out what's happening by the end of the season, or is it open to more seasons? Or
the answer is yes on both.
And the exciting thing about the first season, genuinely, is we both worked on serialized shows before. Sometimes there's that thing of really wanting to step it out and really take your time. This thing cooks. The big stuff happening in these 13 episodes, big kind of developments, revelations, and the problem spreads in an exciting way.
Do you like working in that shorter format of doing only like 13 episodes as opposed to something longer, doing a normal like 20-something episode thing?
A lot for that reason, that you get to kind of, just jam it in there. You know that like, we got 13 episodes, so we won't be back for, another year. Let's just kind of take maybe what could have been 22 episodes worth of story, jamming it into 13. It's so much more fun. I think it's so much more fun as an audience member too.
Yeah, there's no sag. When you're doing 22 episodes is a marathon for both the audience and for the storytellers, and there's no mile where you can take it easy in the race. There's no like, oh, I'll walk this mile and then I'll start running. It's just, there's no filler.
Are there any characters? Oh, sorry. Are there any characters that have changed as a result of casting, or like when you look at the cast, you're like, I need to change this because we want this person, or how does the casting work? And do you write more towards the actor now?
I don't think that we wrote a pilot and then we started the casting process. And in some of the instances, the actors who we hired were very much like, oh, that's what we pictured in our mind. And in others, they were not quite as much. And so inevitably, and this is a lesson we've learned from other shows, when it's really working well, the actor and the role sort of blend. You're not really asking the actor to do something that's so far outside of who they are, but you're not asking for them either. And so definitely some of the characters, and at the same time some of the chemistry that just naturally exists between actors, you start to write more towards that. So some of the character relationships changed a bit after the casting process.
So there seems to be a trend in the last 3 or 4 years of a lot of shows that are either like sort of in the days type. There's plague, zombie plague, there's an actual plague, vampire plague, or now this, the animal plague, so to speak. What do you view as the reason for that? What makes that interesting, and why is that happening now?
I think popular entertainment, I'm coming up originally with the concept that popular entertainment reflects the times. I'm not. Obviously, I think popular entertainment reflects the times, and I think we are all terrified of terrorism, frankly. Like, I think a lot of the popular entertainment is sort of like America post 9/11 realized that we're vulnerable in a way that is frightening. And I think all of these shows are, in one way or another, and movies are a way of processing that fear.
So as these animals are getting more and more intelligent, how do you pace that out? Because did the dog actually knock on the door?
We spent the entire time waiting for you guys to get here talking about this dog.
Everyone was fascinated. Did that dog
It
actually
tapped on the door. It wanted in. It didn't like stand on its legs. Yeah, no.
So how do you figure out how to increase that
How intelligent they are?
Because you don't want to make them too intelligent too fast, and then
I would say watch the show, although that would be a glib answer. We have tried to remain very mindful of what pushes too far, what begs too much credibility, and animals are shockingly bright. Like, they really are. Penguins mate for life. Like, there's so much what we consider to be only human behavior reflected back in the animal population, and so all of the animal behavior, all of this sort of emergent, adaptive, physical and mental behavior of the animals is all based on reality. So we've learned more about animals than we ever would have thought we could. Doing this show has been an education for us and the writing staff. And so everything is kind of pushed to the edge, but we recognize that there's a line, and if you cross the line,
You'll let us know when we've done it.
Feel free to contact us.